brand new Plus Series Mercruiser remanufactured engine here that was just installed in a boat, and the customer came in with a complaint that the engine alarm went off. It seemed that the engine revved up, and then the alarm went off. They brought it back at low speed into the dock and tied it up, and wanted us to check it out to see what was up and let them know if it's safe to run. We're going to use this opportunity to demonstrate the capabilities of the Mercruiser Diagnostic system and just how easy these engines are to troubleshoot after you've had a problem, and how we can pinpoint what might have gone wrong. Here I've connected our laptop to the engine. It's set up for the correct make and model, and I'm going to go in and see if I can look at the history on this and see what might have caused their complaint. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in and we're going to look at the amount of hours on the motor, and then go back and look at the fault history and see what aligns with the time that they had their problem. So I know there's not going to be much on this engine, and it has a total runtime of 0.9 hours. We can see all of the different time spent at different RPM levels here on this screen, and so we'll be looking for something that happened just prior to 0.9 hours. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into a section of the computer program called Freeze Frame, which records a history of exactly what's going on to the engine anytime there's any kind of an alarm. So it's going into the ECM and retrieving the history. And I've got a number of faults. Some of them do we expect to see, and I can see Guardian strategy and right here, and maximum RPM exceeded right here. Those are not ones I expect to see. The trim sensor, the fuel level, and the pitot pressure are normal faults when those components aren't hooked into the system. So first we'll have a look at Guardian strategy here, the top one. I'll hit the plus sign and it gives me all the operating condition of the engine while it went into Guardian strategy. In other words, while it limited its RPM output. And it looks like it's about the right time, about 0.67 hours. The engine was running, and the engine RPM was 4,800 RPM. We can look at the battery voltage, manifold pressure. It looks like the engine limited itself to 84% power, and that's something it does to protect itself once it went over the maximum RPM. Right, so we know when to Guardian at about 0.67 hours. Now we're going to go back. We'll minimize this section. Go back and look at maximum RPM exceeded and confirm. Yes, that was the same time. So the Guardian and the alarm are the same. It will alarm when it goes into Guardian mode, alerting the operator, and it is confirming that at 0.67 hours, that is when the maximum RPM was exceeded. And again, we can go down and look at the parameters it was in gear, all the different things that were being registered by the ECM. Interestingly enough, that the throttle must have been reduced very rapidly, because it recorded 858 RPM at this point, which I can only presume was because the operator was quick enough to reduce the throttle. So given that we see a high RPM, and the customer's complaint was the engine seemed to rev up, the suspicion was when we came down here that maybe a piece of seaweed or other debris got caught in the propeller, causing it to rev up. We just wanted to be safe. I think this confirms it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to print the results of this scan to my file folder, and I can give him a copy, and it's going to come up here with a printed version of what we were just looking at, including the erroneous sensor faults, which we will ignore. But we've got our Guardian strategy, all the information. I'll choose to I'll choose to save this. I'll call it Plus. And now I've got a copy of that to attach to his repair order for a permanent record. I can go back to freeze frame and clear all faults, so that if something happens again, we'll know that it's a new occurrence for sure, and we won't be paying attention to old faults left in the system. Okay, I've got the engine running now, and we're looking at active data coming out of the ECM, again describing all the parameters that it's seeing right now and what it's using to regulate its fuel and change its timing. So I would demonstrate that while we're in here looking at the CDS system. I have other options. I can select item to put on graph. I can select items to put up on a larger display, or I can actually graph data. We're not going to see much of a difference here. We're getting a red line here showing our 680 or so RPM. Very handy when you're trying to troubleshoot sensor faults and you want to watch exactly what's happening. Anyway, that about does it for our CDS demonstration. We've come down, we've discovered that the engine over-revved. We still have to investigate further and confirm that was the only problem. Thank